So next up, we got 3C Consulting. They're going to blow your minds with some information. If you guys are wondering what's happening, if you're out of the loop, these guys will direct you towards that loop. It's one of those things. That's what they do. Don't judge me. I don't know. I'm not the one who does it. They do it. Anywho, without further ado, we're going to get them up here. Give a big round of applause for Nick from 3C Consulting. Huh? Ow!
What is that? Michigan. I feel like I'm back home. I'm from Wisconsin as a kid. Graduated high school, did all that. So it's good to be back in the Midwest. They found a button for the clicker. So I'll apologize in advance. I'll probably swear and offend most people. I assume everyone was carded to be 21 here, so she's definitely looks 21. We're good to go. Well, my name is Nick Easley. I'm from Colorado for the last 12 years, which is essentially right when medical started, and got to see the industry go from look at the cards on my wall all stapled up, and I'm a caregiver of 6, and then we all know what Michigan has kind of become. Like, there's no need to go there. So I help set up companies in different places and just really understand the laws of what we've seen work in other states and how can you come up with a program to work in another. We've worked all over the country, and right now with those 28, 29, I mean, from Canada, what's happening, and internationally, from the Denmarks and the EUs and the South Africas, Swazilands, Australias, New Zealands, Spains. I mean, right north of here, it's about to get wild pretty soon. So it's happening. So the side of what that video was just about is so important. So your local communities, your local movements are the way that you get these things passed, at least on our level, which in the United States, it doesn't really matter very much because it's federally illegal, like everything. Medical, we do have, those 3-4 documents and like Earl's bill that pretty much keeps them from going against medical marijuana programs. Recreational adult use, there's not a single piece of legislation or wordage out there. So technically, you always want to like planning for the insulating what could happen from when you're going from medical to adult use and corporate structures, and when you're going from collectives, these first dispensaries. In Colorado, there's so many. Almost 1,000 at one point. Right now, there's, 3 times more dispensaries than Starbucks. And it's just kind of ridiculous. I like the tax number there from 2016 for Michigan. It was like, there was $21.3 million. I'm like, damn, Colorado, we've done $500 million in taxes. 21.3 million is a ton of money. But tax revenue is heroin to a state. It's kind of one of our expressions here. Colorado, even though Governor Hickenlooper wasn't really for it in the beginning, once he's seen what's happened, he's like, do it, take the time to do it right. Because we were kind of a guinea pig market. So you're like right here, it's like Colorado 2007-8. Like, hey, we have this whole robust caregiver program, and it's all good, and I'm not really selling it, donations, and then like, hey, these licenses are available. It's like, oh, okay. So you've got corporate structuring you're going to have to do, going from like a nonprofit collective type model that 7 states have had. It's quite complicated. You don't have the ability to really start from scratch like a lot of these markets where it's a license application for 12 in a state or 5. So at this stage, Michigan, you've got a lot of opportunity to kind of set the stage here. But when you're structuring these companies and planning this, December 15th is a very effing important day here of what you can do. Even though it's kind of been an unknown for, the last 4 or 5 years, now there's this potential election coming up, which definitely vote for that. Like the adult use side, if done correctly, is incredible for a state. You obviously have the history and reputation of being awesome when it comes to our industry. Everyone kind of forgot about it. It's like Colorado, California, the West Coast, Maine, and Michigan, you guys were just sleeper markets over here, just waiting to fucking explode. And it's about to happen, but you're going to have about $3 to $4 billion of an illicit market economy that's created here, transitioning and somewhat going away. So if you're in that small scale, when you think about large scale, your plant counts and stacking the licenses, what you can do, heck yeah, tickle Alaska. Recreational state number 4 that essentially prices per pounds right now, $5,000 to $6,100 or so wholesale for like high quality adult use. It's ridiculous. Hawaii is like finally starting. Like you're just doing such a good job. So when you structure companies, like everyone doesn't understand, like things are changing constantly. You need tons of homies to help you. You might be a good grower, but a lot of them are seriously like trying to build metal carts in their basements and figure out how to go from 10 lights to 5 to 50 to 200 to starting thousands of plants. They're like pulling a cart without wheels. Yeah, that's awesome. So I've gotten to learn from hundreds of people's different business mistakes from having one company that just does pure consulting and fixing those problems. Everyone has problems as they scale. And don't do what other people have done, like with the wrong pesticides, the wrong planning, not structuring your business correctly. It's the quickest way to have problems, because this is technically federally illegal and state. Every company you can ever imagine touching and doing this is going to have an audit at some point. Not understanding IRC 280E, these weird tax implications from like, it's not normal business. You have to plan and structure this correctly, and it is not easy. Like those dorky lawyers, I love them all. Like they are our best friends in this space, because legally, understanding what you can and cannot do is the secret to this. With essentially with those businesses, real estate. Most people buy real estate too early. It's not zoned appropriately, too close to something. Do rigorous like due diligence. Look into shit deep. Like, is this like properly zoned, square footages, locations? Every single rule that they ask you to do it. And like do it with like zeal. Like it's an honor now to start paying taxes. And your taxes will be so low on the adult use side if you do go to that, let's say 9-10%. Other markets are 21 to sometimes 29%. It kills the adult use program and keeps what's kind of happening now happening, but then it keeps getting worse for that side. So I always just invite people to like get ready to transition if you want to do this, and if it's too hard, like get good people and don't try to do it alone. And it's going to take a lot more money than you can think to do it really big and well. Most people are like, we're going to start a company now, and like we have to name it. So here's some like common things not to do. Anything pretty much like this. And you can't even claim Chapter 11 in cannabis because that's a federal thing, so that's not even actually funny if you get the joke. But I mean, I personally own pieces of like 4 different like canna something, this is a that's from back in the day. I'm like, gosh, you just look at this and over and over and over again. So think something unique, realistic. Your hands-off companies like property management companies that own, lease, build a building, triple net lease it to your operational entity, LLCs with the license, like those sorts of things. Those don't have cannabis names. Like those are like normal business people things, like real estate investment trust, property company. But your brand, don't do what everyone else has thought was a good idea, because like it's not. It was cute at first, but there's some other good ones that we've seen, but a lot of times behind what brands are is like horrible operations, class action lawsuits, and over again it's these same problems, but then also looking awesome and good things. So these brands, there's good ones, there's bad ones, but that's like your company that people are going to know for what you do if you are a licensed producer, or B2B or B2C, depending on what you do. But get creative, think realistic here, because no one wants to cash a check from some horribly sounding like Cotton Candy Dank Ass Buds LLC. Like, Wells Fargo does not like that shit. They will and be legitimate and above board. Back in the day, keeping like your receipts was like, that's a fucking paper trail. Now it's like, oh, those are my P&Ls, and I'm understanding my business profitability as the price per pound drops and my production costs are rising. Like, to get some of these licenses, it takes significant efforts and significant legal understanding to build something that you hope will eventually be bought by Philip Morris or some large merger acquisition. Like, you're making all these little companies here, but just, if you don't know about like Leafly or something like your weed map, so you just like explore Colorado, fly around like Google Earth. You're like, damn, things are happening. And this is one place, but you're going to be also competing with your new structure where you've got California companies, collectives, not really mutual benefit corporations, not really companies yet, all over that have built these brands. So what's going to be unique about you for your local population, and what would be attractive and lucrative for like a nice exit strategy later? Everyone's been failing, and we get to keep learning time and time again from people trying and failing. And every year, I mean, in Vegas this year, probably 15,000 people in a week or two for like our big industry event. But 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there was 10 of these. Now there's like 500. Like, there's this coalescence happening, and figure out what you do and do it well. Don't try to do everything. That's the problem with companies, step by step. I love all the different dispensaries we've seen in Colorado and California and how they look, and what this new thing is of, let me spend $20,000 to $30,000 on how I look, and maybe I'll do 4 times the amount of sales. And like focusing on like the consumer experience. If you're on that side, you're selling an experience, not the products, and it starts from your marketing and moving forward, and not with Medicanna, Pharma, GAN, RX, MD-ish weed. LLC. This shit's not even like hilarious. I'm sorry about this. We also have to really grow up as an industry. You all know where we came from, and it's just got to change a little bit. Like, this is a professional thing when you're thinking about cancer and epilepsy and all the potential, and never saying anything like we were talking earlier about organic, like certain things, those are federal terms. If you put that into your marketing, you could be liable and have horrible things. Or like, this product cures cancer. Like, oh shit, that's like an FDA, you are in deep trouble. Like, planning your facilities, how you're going to be compliant with what a normal business would have to do. And this works for some normal businesses, but in our industry, if you put a hot girl on it with a cartoon character, you charge $400 more for it. And it's just some simple thing. So there's some beautiful women there. The most beautiful woman in cannabis. I love this photo. That's one. Because it's all the same, like our cannabis, our hemp, the opportunities for this. It's such a special plant. Like the Great Dane version of hemp, and then you've got like this awesome little poodle dog of ours that we get to grow that has a whole different purpose, and we bred them like that. This is agriculture. Deep agriculture. And that's why here, you're a fucking agricultural community. Like this state, like Wisconsin, that's where we come from, and we understand ag. So if you understand ag, you understand this is more than just like growing plants with cartoon character nutrients in a basement. It's a good start, but like we can do this better and more efficiently, more sustainably. Indoor cultivation, if done improperly, is so dangerous for the environment it is, the pesticides used, the capital it takes to do it. Find raw land. Like, we've seen the indoor world time and time again. We know where we started from. That one on the bottom left, that was an international client of mine. We're like, we got this great place, the family owns it, this is what we could apply with. I'm like, the remediation in this alone, like, there's some land in the country. You don't grow potatoes in Detroit to feed everyone potatoes in Detroit. We could do that in Toronto, we could do that all over the world, but we don't because it's not efficient, and it's very expensive, environmental catastrophe, and that's for a little girl who has epilepsy. Like, we have to make everything food grade, certified, following good agricultural practices, good manufacturing practice. You start hearing terms like ISO certifications, and how is testing actually done? Do they take the samples, provide the samples, alter the samples? Who's calibrating the labs that are doing these? Like, we pay our government to take care of this for like FDA, EPA. Well, sometimes we mess with some of them, apparently. Like OSHA, you've got all these protections for consumer where this is an industry, and we don't have it because it's state by state here. Denmark, Germany, Israel, Australia, soon Canada. The amount of like pharmaceutical kind of protections through it, you can't even imagine when you're coming from your basement to a small warehouse and blowing out a couple houses to a couple facilities. This is enormous, and this isn't going to scale with us. We've all seen it. It's just not. I mean, I love going into sometimes client places. I'm like, damn. You've all seen worse. Come on now. That's just. And then this is like, I remember this one about. Like, this is a world-class like facility, and then like we're going to like do this with cannabis. I'm like, you can't even grow tomatoes. But then they raised $5 million because their marketing was great. So you have to have both. It's a combination of like that business planning, the vocational, like boots on the ground experience of what this plant is, what the markets are, looking to some really good data companies to understand like BDS analytics. I love Roy's company. It's like what products are selling in dispensaries, what margins, like what percentage of the state's sales. You're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't just make lip balms. It's like 617K nationally tracked so far. It's like, yeah. The other side, concentrate markets, extract markets are growing so fast that like the cultivation methodology is having to change for a lot of local growers to provide enough quality plant material for production. Vegas, $900 for a pound of trim right now, compliant. Damn. Trim used to be a byproduct. You put in some brown paper bags, some garbage bags out in the barn, and like shit tons. You're like, what do I even do with this? Oh, let's make some bubble hash. There's so much value in that. I can take a pound of like high quality compliant cannabis in some markets and turn it into over $12,000 of retail. You have a gram of concentrate. 1 gram, like, oh, dude, you got some cool rosin or some cool shatter. And butane, like, God, this industry, we've got to grow up. The mixed hydrocarbon side, volatile solvents, like Class 1A explosive proof room standards, food grade, like, blasting tubes, bro, is, like, been fun, but, like, it's actually really unsafe, kind of. So, like, it's the amount of explosions. When you go into, like, normal side of that, if you're working on that, just think high-level standards, $500,000 to $1 million. Let's just start there if you want to do that correctly and really scale a cool company that's a brand, because you can't produce at standards like we've been doing for a long time. Sorry, I got to talk about I had to pay for my flight to get here kind of thing. But the sun is awesome. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. I'm a big fan of like greenhouses. Outdoor production, we're legal, of course. But the sun is awesome for growing things like sequoias and like every plant pretty much. And we do some commercial industrial food production with hydroponics in greenhouses. But what other crops do we grow indoors commercially that are multi-trillion-dollar potential plant? Like, I don't actually know of a single one. I think just marijuana, which is awesome. So you can use the sun to grow marijuana, and a lot of four-season hybrid greenhouses here for Michigan. Perfect security, like new builds are some of my favorite things to do. You have a really nice head house that gets the plants ready, go for about 5.7 harvests per year, different varieties, 100 plants per bay in like 3,000 to 6,000 square feet. One variety, 100 plants, 25 square feet plants, just boom, cycled. I think it's spitting out a lot more than your little like 500 plants or this or that, so you're going to have some competition. But if you use this big guy, which I missed today, it's so cold in Michigan. We've changed markets using this light. In Colorado, 4 years ago, about $4,400 a pound wholesale average. Now with like a mix of indoor, outdoor greenhouse, hybrids, all of the different varieties of medical and recreational, the average is about $1,100. So when that changes, your margins are changing, and it's because we're producing tons of cannabis, literally tons of cannabis, using the sun for so much cheaper production. So if you want to be competitive, indoor you can do it, but you have to build a beautiful brand and very efficient processes, safe and regulatory-wise. Or I've seen it, just these failing warehouses in Colorado, California, like use the sun. So Michigan, these are like my best guidance for you is like, don't do what other markets have done incorrectly when it comes to some of those businesses. In Colorado, 800 licensed companies already like, what happened? They were gonna change the world. Now they're like changing tires. So if you're a master grower, you're not going to make $250,000 a year and own 50% of the company. It's kind of like that's a very specific strategic task. And things are changing. You look at like one of my new junior associates, California, he was making $15 an hour to grow for a dispensary. Averages are in there, like 12, 18, maybe $22 an hour, harvest bonuses. Different things change, and they're bringing in people from outside ag. So, like, you have to study up. Master grower, if you have a certification for that, like, put it on the wall, but, like, become a certified crop advisor. Like, certain things that matter, it'll really boost you up. Everyone study the rules of Michigan, like what you can do, what you can't, and keep on top of it. You can only do what you do so well, and it's going to take a network of you, and you've gotten to change your state based on doing that already. So keep finding like people that do other things, and if you know the industry from like the vocational, find some people that know business that are kind of like dorky and nerdy. And if you're dorky and nerdy and like have capital and interested in this, find some people that know about it, but also like bring your business to that. It's the business that are making these crushing companies. And the goal in 2018, after essentially December 15th, be ready. You need to crush it because you've been doing this for a while, and some high-quality products here. Like second most patients. California, even though they have so many, they don't even actually know. We just know it's above a certain number. Like you at least keep track of yours. So like over 200,000 medical marijuana patients. Colorado, we have 94,000 today. Our peak, it was like 120, 130, 140,000. So right now, like those numbers go down because then there's so many options for them to purchase. It doesn't make sense to like keep getting a card and the inconvenience. But then when the tax is higher, it's worth it. That's why there's still so many. Or to home grow. But if you're doing the home grow kind of flow somewhere else, like that's getting harder and harder. And you're going to have to, the price is going to keep coming down and down, and your risk will go up and up. And eventually it just kind of sucks. So take that knowledge, find some good people, and like get into it in a good way. When you're thinking about these 4-season hybrids and like, oh, that's not like blasting wax in the back room. Like it's growing up a little bit, and you have to take it to that standard, and that standard takes a little bit of money. And these aren't even like the best examples, but things are changing very efficiently. And yeah, it's been fun for 12 years. Watching and playing in this, and I'm kind of tired. It just keeps sometimes in some markets gets worse and worse, and we see the same thing, and it keeps happening. And there's so much knowledge and wisdom out there. Google is one of my favorite things. You ask it those questions, it tells you answers. Looking into like best management practices for greenhouse cultivation and like what those regulations are, you can learn so much. Yeah, Google.com, very very helpful. So we're all over. We're playing. I love Michigan. it's from close to home, and you've just been the sleeper. And you've got an opportunity here this next year. But you have to start planning now. It's not like, oh, now I have to do this. There's months of planning and structuring and budgeting and zoning and permitting and regulations and checking all the boxes. Like the fun joke for like what we do is like you're a compliance company that gets the privilege of cultivating, extracting, distributing, manufacturing marijuana. That's just like the bonus if you can be compliant. So find some nerdy people that can like help you track those things, a lot of digital tools, but start planning if you're going to get into it. Thanks all. I appreciate Michigan. This is awesome. Yeah. Michigan.